In today's episode, we are going to talk about what to know before buying or what to know before moving to Orlando, Florida. To help us with that, we have Phil Kruse with Orlando Brothers Real Estate, or IamPhilKruse.com. We are going to be talking about values. What are prices like? We're going to be talking about trends. Is it a buyer's market? Is it a seller's market? We're going to be talking about best neighborhoods to live in. We're going to be talking about insurance. We're going to be talking about the weather, how Orlando, Florida is perfectly situated. We're going to talk about Disney, school districts, and taxes. Welcome to the show, Phil. How are you?
I'm doing awesome, Jose. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you so much. So let's start off here. Is Orlando, Florida a buyer's market right now in 2024, or is it a seller's market?
Right now, it's definitely a seller's market. It's been a seller's market since I got into real estate, which was in 2016, and it's never looked back. Like so many major metropolitan cities in the country, we have a massive inventory issue. After the crash of 2008, like most cities in the country, the builders stopped building, and we just haven't been able to catch up. And when I say inventory, I mean, of course, homes available to purchase today. And so even with the high interest rates, or at least perceived higher interest rates that we're having, right around 6.75% ish right now here in Florida, you're still seeing bidding wars. You're still seeing homes going under contract within the first weekend or first couple weekends. And of course, that is dependent on the neighborhood and the product, but it is absolutely a seller's market. If you are pricing your home correctly, you're going to get multiple offers and lots of foot traffic within the first weekend.
What are the values like? I know in California, like in our market, I think the median home price is right around 800. What's the median home price, and what's considered low end, what's considered median, and what's considered high end? And what does that typically get you out there as well?
Sure. So it's starkly different here in Florida. So the median, at least in Orlando, the median home price in Orlando is right around $450,000 right now. Now, if you go down to Miami, all right, 3 hours south, you can add another couple hundred grand to that. Okay. But we're going to speak Orlando. We're going to speak Central Florida. $450,000 probably gets you a 3 bedroom, 2 bath with no pool in a neighborhood on the outskirts of affluence, if I explain that clearly. The farther you go away from Orlando city center or downtown Orlando, the farther you go away from that, generally speaking, with some exceptions, the lower the prices go. A lot of people hear Orlando, they immediately think Disney. Disney's actually located in Kissimmee, 45 minutes to an hour south of downtown Orlando, and it's a completely different real estate ballgame down there. Down there, you have vacation home properties, you have lots of condos, and a lot of renters down there. The high end, I would say, the higher end, I mean, we have extreme high ends. We have the highest priced lakefront in the entire country. Okay, so we have an area of Orlando called Isleworth, which is a small city on the Butler chain. Tiger Woods has a house there. Shaq just sold his house there. Johnny Damon from Boston, the Braves, sold his house there. We're talking $20, $30 million real estate transactions. We have the highest average listing for lakefront in the country. We have arguably the most lakes per square mile of any city in the country. A lot of people don't realize that. I myself live on a lake. So I would say the high end is real, probably certainly over $1 million. I mean, that most people can afford in this area, probably between 1 and 1.5. But then if you get in these exclusive neighborhoods like Winter Park, where you have another big chain of lakes, I mentioned the Butler chain, there's all kinds of big prestigious lakes in the area. Easily, you can see land selling for 2, 3, 4 million. And then the homes, the sky's the limit. You 5+ million, 10+ million, just depends on that. And then the low end, you're going to see, we have a decent amount of condos in downtown Orlando. Some are still selling for below, in and around. Some are still selling for below 200,000. I just put a woman under contract for a 55+ community townhome at like 150 grand, and that was a 2.2. So we do have products that are that low, but it needs to be fixed up, and it's going to be small, and you're probably going to be, fairly far from infrastructure.
Yep. And then when you said like around 400 without a pool, is that a single family residence? And is that like older build? Is it newer build? Like what would that look like?
Exactly. So my focus is generally in and around the greater Orlando area, less Disney, although I do plenty of business down there. So I'm going to focus on that. 3 bedroom, 2 bath, probably built somewhere in the between 1950s and 1960s and 70s. Orlando's a lot older of a town than a lot of people realize. We actually incorporated in the late 1800s, the citrus industry and the cattle industry. So it's not uncommon to find homes that have been fully flipped that are gorgeous, but they're on a crawl space and they're stick frame, meaning they're made of wood. Maybe they're built in 1910, 1920. They could be going for over $1 million. But to answer your question, 450,000 is probably a 1,500 square foot home, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, no pool, built in like the 1950s.
Yeah. What are some of the major drivers for Orlando, like in terms of like why do people move there?
Sure. Well, we have the largest university in the country on any given year. So it's usually between us and Arizona State. We kind of ping pong back and forth every year. But the University of Central Florida, my alma mater, go Knights, all right, UCF, we are in any given year number one or number two for enrollment. And that's located right in East Orlando. That's massive. We have huge ties and connections with Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Brasfield and Gorey, and the entire Space Coast, SpaceX, Blue Origin, NASA, all of it. It's all within 40 minutes or so drive of that campus. And then the area around it called Research Park. You have Siemens Energy located there. I mean, we're a emerging and really already well-established tech city. We're a leader in LiDAR, which is like the special technology for driverless cars. We have a place being built called Neo City. It's all about sensors and technology. We have two of the largest hospital chains in the region with Orlando Regional Medical Center and Advent Health, both headquartered here. Those are huge. And just the proximity to everything. You can get to Tampa in an hour and a half. You can get to Miami in 3 hours on the Brightline train. You're only an hour from the coast. And obviously the number one employer in the Central Florida region is Disney by a long shot. So tons of people live in and around Central Florida that are either cast members, meaning they work directly in the parks, or engineers. Disney does all their engineering in-house. Thousands and thousands of employees. Actually, Disney was planning on moving their headquarters from California to Lake Nona, which is a region in Southeast Orlando, which is just hot fire. Famous tennis players and golfers live there. The United States Tennis Association built 100 plus courts and relocated their headquarters to Lake Nona. So I'm talking, and there's a medical city down there. It's massive. But unfortunately, due to some political issues between Disney and our governor, Disney decided to pull the plug. Hopefully that changes because they were going to relocate, I think, 2,000 employees and then hire another 4 with the average salary being $100,000. That would have been huge.
Which that would have been great. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about school districts? Like what are some of the better school districts out in Orlando if somebody's looking to put their kids in school?
Yeah. If you're listening out there and you want to circle a school district, you want to be highlighting Seminole County. Seminole County is without a doubt the most prestigious school district in Central Florida. I live in Orange County. Orange County is the second largest school district in the state of Florida behind Metro-Dade. And Orange County has a lot of great schools, but the cliche is Seminole County, and most of their schools are A-rated, and people are falling all over themselves to move from wherever they live into Seminole County just so they can get into that public school district. We also have a robust offering of charter schools, which are like public-private partnerships, and then, of course, private schools. So even if you don't live in the greatest school zone, you probably live close to a really nice charter school or a really nice private school.
Yeah. What about like how has Orlando changed like over the last like 10 years or so? Like meaning what were prices like 10 years ago? Are you guys seeing like in some areas where we're actually seeing a drop in population? Are you guys seeing an increase in population where you guys are at?
The state of Florida literally has thousands of people moving to it a day.
A day, yeah.
It's completely insane. Our prices are not going down. We have seen a slowdown in the prices going up. So to me, we're at a little bit of a slight plateau, but to me, that's only on the homes that aren't super desirable. If you have a home that's been fully renovated, let's say it's in Seminole County and it's got a pool, 2,000 square feet with 4 bedrooms, it's a bidding war. It's going to be off the market within the first 2 days. I've gone through it multiple times in the past couple months. How it's changed is urban sprawl, for sure. One of the benefits of being in Central Florida is we still have lots of land. So the city of Orlando has just sprawled out. And so you see a lot more traffic in areas outside a city center that didn't used to have traffic before, because the infrastructure, the roadways, hasn't caught up to the communities out there. I'm thinking specifically West Orlando, where you have Winter Garden, Hamlin. A new expressway opened up there 10, 15 years ago called the 429, and just has completely exploded West Orlando. Same with South Orlando and areas like Point Siena. So urban sprawl is a big thing. So traffic has been bad historically in and around downtown with Interstate 4 that runs north and south, but that has just extrapolated out. All the way as far north as Sanford, which is the north cap of Metro Orlando, and well past Kissimmee. But we recently added express lanes to the I-4 corridor, and we're adding more with a 10-year project coming up. And the Brightline Rail, high-speed rail, one day, in the next 5 to 7 years, is going to connect to Tampa. It already connects to Miami, and that's going to be absolutely massive. Because what that does is when you go from Orlando to Tampa and vice versa, and you're on a train, you're bypassing Disney. And that's where it can be a quagmire, no matter if there's an accident or not. You're talking an extra 30 to 45 minutes just because of Disney.
Got it. So why would somebody move to Orlando versus like Miami or like even like Fort Lauderdale?
Sure. Well, I can speak to this intimately. I was born and raised in Miami. Okay. I'm one of those few native Floridians. I moved out of Miami in 2001 and went to Orlando. First thing I noticed was all the blonde girls. So that was one thing, but I digress. The real estate prices in Miami are just completely insane. They're more in with the prices you're going to see in California and other very large, densely populated cities. Miami doesn't have any more land. You have water all around, and on the west side, you have the Everglades. So there's no more building in Miami. There's building up, and there's prices going up. Orlando doesn't have that. So the first thing I would say is, if you're comparing Orlando to Miami, the same house in Orlando might be close to half the price, certainly a couple $100,000 less. And it's just less of an edge. Miami just has this edge to it. It's hard to describe. If anyone of you listening out there has been there and visited, you probably know what I mean. The traffic down there is probably comparable to LA. I mean, it is completely insane, the traffic. I mean, Orlando's one thing. But to focus more on the positives and focus more on Orlando and statewide, I mean, we have no state income tax in Florida. So many people are moving here, taking their money out of these high tax states and parking it in Florida, and they're coming in droves. And so Orlando, you're going to have a more diverse offering for your buck. You can be close to an established neighborhood that's 100 years old, if that's your thing, like it is for me, or you can get out of town a good 30, 45 minutes and be in a big sprawling community where there's an Easter egg hunt and all this special stuff at the community center, and splash pad for the kids, and an HOA, a homeowners association. We have it all, really.
Got it. You guys also, I think in Florida, a homestead, right? Where like somebody can, like in your primary residence, if it's worth 200 million, like it's basically protected against lawsuits or something like that. Like in California, we have up to a certain amount.
Homestead exemption is what I'm hearing you're saying.
Yeah.
Homestead exemption is only available for your primary residence, so the home you live in. And what it does is it caps the property taxes on your home. They can't be raised by more than 3% a year. So historically, over a 30, 40-year period of time, roughly speaking, real estate prices in Central Florida have gone up 7% a year. So you're saving 4% of assessed value on your taxes. So if you live in a house for 20 years, you could be saving hundreds of thousands of dollars on the assessed value of your home. And when you sell your house, if you stay within anywhere in the state of Florida, it doesn't have to be in Orlando, anywhere in the state of Florida, you can take that savings. So if your house is worth $1 million, but due to your only 3% growth over the years, the county looks at it and says it's only worth $500,000, there's a $500,000 of savings there, right? You can take that $500,000 of savings and port it over to your new home. So let's say you buy a $2 million home. They're going to assess and tax you based on a $2 million property. You're going to port in that $500,000, it's going to knock the assessed value of your home down to 1.5, and you're going to be paying a lot less taxes than your neighbors.
What I was referring to is I had heard something a while back that, like, let's say I'm suing you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have heard that in California, if they're suing you, they can't go after you're protected up to a certain amount in your primary residence, like 500 or $1 million. I hear that in Florida, if you have a $200 million um, primary residence, that's all basically protected, where even if they sue you, they can't go after your primary residence. So what people do sometimes, if if they're like in a litigious field, they'll buy like a really big primary residence knowing that they can't go after that
Park their
amount of,
cash there.
park their cash, basically. That's what I was referring to. I wanted to ask you though. So I like you hear certain things in the news. I hear certain things in the news. Like, people were saying that the Florida market had peaked, or I saw that maybe like a month or so ago or less, that prices had almost like that there was a lot of price reductions happening. What was that all about?
There certainly has been a lot of price reductions. Okay, I'm be the first to say that it's obvious that that is there. All that means is that people are pricing their homes too expensive, too high on average when they're listing it initially. In a lot of these neighborhoods, Jose, it is almost impossible to keep up with the price appreciation. Okay. I watched houses on the same street go for 20 grand more than the other one because it got listed 2 weeks after. And the bidding war on that one over there drove the price up so high. And the people that lost went over to this other listing and made offers at that new higher price. I'm talking like a month ago, this happened to me. Okay. Now, again, this
Yeah.
was in Seminole County on a flipped home with a pool, gorgeous. So, on average, on a macro level, yes, we are seeing more price reductions, but that doesn't mean the prices are going down. As you well know, Jose, the only thing that matters is closed sales. And if you look at the price and the volume of closed sales, number of closed sales is going down and has continued to go down for months and months. But you know what's going up? The median home price. It's a paradox. Less home sales, higher home price, higher inventory. There's more homes coming on the market. Homes are sitting on the market longer, but we're just so far behind in our inventory. We're so far behind in the number of homes available for sale. Prices are still going up.
Yeah. Does it make more sense to buy something in Orlando or build something from scratch?
Now, that's a great question. So I'm also a property developer. So I've built 20 something homes in the last few years and have a bunch more coming up. So there's two ways you can look at it, right? If you're buying from scratch, you could be buying from a big corporate home builder, okay, a DR Horton, a Lennar, Toll Brothers, what have you. They make it
Mhm.
really easy. You go in there, the home might already be under construction. It's called a quick move in. You buy it, everything's already picked out for you. You don't go through the stress that I did, like with my wife going through a custom home. First world problems. We went nuts trying to pick all the crap for our home. Let me
Mhm.
tell you. And that can be really easy. Or you pick the lot. They only give you 2 or 3 floor plans to choose from. They give you a menu of items to pick from, and you move forward. That can be really easy because you're not in a competitive situation oftentimes. You're not going through the stress of a bidding war. Okay. But you're probably going to be on the outskirts of Orlando. They've cleared the whole lot. There's no old growth trees like we have all in downtown Orlando. We have hundreds year old oak trees that are gorgeous. So you're gonna lose some of that natural character. You could do new construction in the established neighborhoods where there are some infill lots, meaning little lots that haven't been built on over the years. Or what's more common is you see these old dilapidated homes from the 20s, 30s, 40s that have been disrepair. People like me are buying them, knocking them down, and building new construction. They're building them as spec homes or speculative homes with an end user yet to be determined. Um, you see a lot of that, tons of flips. But if you were coming in for California and say, I want to come in and it might be the path of least resistance for me to build a home, my suggestion would be for you to start looking at the new build communities, especially if you're coming here with a California bankroll because you sold your house for millions of dollars and you can come here and buy one for 800 grand. You might be able to find a new build community that's actually closer. They're popping up here and there. These builders are smart, and that might be a great place for you to start and have a stress-free transition from Cali to Orlando.
What are some of the challenges? Because in California, I get people, because of our prices, like they look at our prices like maybe it's cheaper for me to just build something. But what they don't realize, because I just went through a remodel, not even a brand new construction. There's so many things that go on. There's so many things that go wrong. Like, what is your advice, or what mistakes you typically see when somebody goes through that uh, thought process?
Sure. I would say pack your patience and have realistic expectations. If you're going to do this, you need somebody who can temper your expectations. So if you're coming into Orlando and you want to find a new build, or you want to find a builder and you want to build a custom home and you want to buy your own parcel of land or dilapidated home, it definitely helps to have a real estate agent that has gone through the process like me, or a builder that can coach you and give you realistic timelines. Look, the builders aren't liars. They look at, okay, I can build you a house in 8 months if everything goes more or less perfect. You said it already, Jose. It ain't going to go perfect. So what I coach my clients that are doing new construction, whatever the builder tells you, double it. If you're doing a renovation and they tell you the kitchen's going to take 6 weeks, say, okay, thank you, sir. You and your wife sit down and say, Phil told us it's going to take 12 weeks. If it comes in sooner, you're happy. But when it comes in at 10 weeks, you're not going to be pissed, hopefully. If they tell you it's going to be a 4-month build, add 2 to 3 months to it. If they tell you it's going to be a 6-month build, think a year. It's just the way it is. Supply chain issues, labor issues, somebody makes a mistake, somebody goes out of business, you make a mistake as the person renovating or building, you're like, oh crap, 3 months in, we actually don't even want that thing anymore. Rip it out. Change order. Oh, you don't realize that domino just knocked you 2 months down the line. And then you're going to get pissed at your builder later, and he's going to come back to you and say, with all due respect, Phil, you guys had me rip up this wall, and we got to the back of the line with the electrician because of that, and it's just a snowball effect. So my number one advice would be pack your patience and talk to somebody who can be an advocate and a mentor, really, to get you through it. Because I'm going to tell you right now, first world problems, mind you, and it's a blessing to have this problem, but it will be stressful and it will try your patience.
Got it. What about price per square foot? Like, how much does it cost to build something from scratch? And how long do the permits take? In California, a permit for a brand new construction, depending on the city, it can be like 3-4 years just for permits.
Wow, you really shocked me there. So I thought we had it bad. I'm never going to say that again. The city of Orlando is in Orange County, and they have their own jurisdiction. So if you're in the city of Orlando and you're building, you can fully expect 3 months. 3 months to get permits.
Wow.
If you're in unincorporated Orange County, and it's a pretty straightforward scenario, probably closer to 2 months. And generally the municipality, and this is all residential, single family home construction I'm referring to, I would say all the municipalities in the area that I've been exposed to, Seminole County, Polk County, Volusia County, all of greater Central Florida, are going to be roughly the same time frame for permits. Build time, I would say, I'll just throw a dart and say a year. Okay. And that's once you have permits in hand. And price per square foot, I look at price per square foot as heated square footage. So this is going to exclude a garage. This is going to exclude a covered patio or lanai. All right. And in some homes, those could be very big and alter the price of the home. But roughly speaking, you should be able to get a home built that's not really fully custom, but probably somewhere between 160 to 175 a square foot heated. And you're going to get yourself a nice home for that. Semi-custom. And if you go nuts, you throw a pool in there and you're, floating staircases and all the craziness, double 10-foot tall ceilings, sky's the limit. Easily over 200 per square foot. And that's just build costs. That doesn't count utilities. That doesn't count sewer and septic tanks, which we have a lot of here. That doesn't count impact fees, which could usually is a percentage of the cost of the home, but call it 15 to 30 grand impact fees. It excludes all of that. Anything to do with the land, trees, dirt, excludes all that. This is just straight build cost.
Yeah. What about do you guys have ADU laws, meaning that you guys can build accessory dwelling units on a single family residence? Is that available in Florida at all?
It is. In Orlando, I'm not going to say very common, but it is common enough. And it's a function of future land use and zoning. Just two metrics laid out by the county or the city. You just simply need to do your due diligence to make sure you understand, is this lot, number one, is it eligible? Does it have a high enough future land use, which just means how densely can we pack homes in? Does it have a favorable future land use? And if so, is my lot large enough so that the setbacks, or how close I get to the border of the lot, are the setbacks, can I maintain the setbacks? Because you can't build within the setbacks. And the last thing you'd want to be looking at is it on sewer or is it on septic? If you're on a sewer, it's easy. You can just pipe your accessory dwelling unit into the sewer system, no big deal. If it's a septic system, you're probably not going to be able to do it, because you're going to probably need your own dedicated septic tank and drain field, and that can take up, hundreds of square footage of your yard. And oftentimes, if you already have a home there, and they're not going to let you tap in, probably, maybe, but they're not going to let you tap into your existing septic system, it could get messy and probably wouldn't happen.
Got it. Okay. So it is available.
Yes.
What about weather? So what's like in California, earthquakes, in Florida, I hear hurricanes. What's the weather like out there? And what are some concerns with like floods, hurricanes, anything like that?
Sure. Again, born and raised in Florida. I lived through Hurricane Andrew in 1992. I was in South Miami. We got direct hit. We were without power for 3 weeks. 2004, I was at college at UCF. Got hit by Hurricane Charlie, which was a Cat 5 when it hit, and then it directly hit Orlando. But when it hit Orlando, it was a Cat 3. So you're rightly concerned about hurricanes. If you live on the coast, any of the coasts, all the way up and down the eastern seaboard, you're in a major threat. Orlando, we have the Gulf of Mexico on the west side. But if a hurricane hits Florida and it's going to come across the state and it's going to come across Orlando, which that in and of itself is rare. Like Tampa, for example, one of the major cities in Orlando, hasn't been hit by a storm in like almost 100 years. Okay. So it's a dice roll. But if it hits Orlando, the eye of the storm, which has been traveling over hot Atlantic water or hot Gulf of Mexico water and getting super strong, and that's all hurricanes need, is favorable winds and hot water. Once you get over land, there's nothing feeding the hurricane anymore, and it dramatically drops. So Hurricane Charlie hit basically southwest Florida, buzzsawed right up the state and directly hit Orlando. It dropped 2 categories of strength in that relatively short period of time. Point is that Orlando is insulated from the worst devastation. You get no storm surge, and storm surge is really what does the most damage. If you've seen what Hurricane Ian did 2 years ago or Hurricane Michael did up in the Panhandle, Fort Myers got wiped off the face of the map. And a military base up there in Panhandle got wiped off the face of the map because of the storm surge. We're talking 20-foot wall of water. There's nothing we can build that can withstand that. You're never going to get that in Orlando. And Orlando is one of the highest points in all of Florida. There's like one region up in North Florida near Georgia that's a little bit higher. Other than that, we have the highest elevation in the state. Flooding is a thing. Flooding is a thing everywhere. I actually just interviewed a gentleman, an environmental engineer on my podcast that just released today, all about flooding as it pertains to Orlando and Florida. So if your listeners want to check out my podcast to hear that episode, I encourage it. You're not required to carry flood insurance. But if you have a lender and you're in a flood zone and you have a mortgage, the mortgage lender is going to force you to carry flood insurance. But just because you're not in the flood zone doesn't mean you shouldn't have flood insurance. And that was one of the premises of the podcast. So again, talking to somebody like me, who's an expert in these sorts of things and has other experts that are even know way more than me that I can lean on, and insurance companies that can help you with this, that's what you need to be doing to make sure you understand what you're getting yourself into.
I've heard of issues with insurance in Florida. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Major issue. Insurance in the state of Florida for property insurance is a major issue. The state of Florida started a company called Citizens, owned and managed by the state of Florida. I don't remember, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever it is. It was designed for people that simply can't get homeowners insurance because maybe they live on the coast or they have some extenuating circumstance with their home. It is now the number one insurance provider in the state. It's completely insane. It's not supposed to be that way. Maybe it's not number one, but it's in millions of policies and they're not supposed to have millions of policies. And a lot of the major insurance carriers have left the state. And there for a period of time, you were literally like stuck with 2 insurance providers and Citizens. And that was all you had. And they had all the power. Now, the issue with insurance, it's not their fault. Like everybody wants to look at corporate America and insurance sometimes and say these greedy fat cats are taking all our money. Well, what
Mhm.
happened for 20 years or so, maybe longer, is the roofing companies were committing roofing fraud, and they were convincing homeowners to let them file insurance claims that were shady at best. Oh, a hailstorm moved in. They knock on your door. They show you a picture of a map, with color coded. Oh, this hailstorm came through a year and a half ago. Let me go up on your roof. I'm going to draw little chalk circles around these little holes in your roof. I'm going to take pictures. You're going to sign this affidavit. I'm going to represent you, and I'm going to make a claim to your insurance company. I'm going to get you a free roof. Oh, you might even get a check back. You might get a roof and $5,000. That's not right. So the apple cart got upset. Insurance companies were bleeding cash. They had to jack up rates, and a lot of them said, "Screw this, we're out of here." And there's a lot, and the state of Florida has been super slow to react with legislation, but it is happening. It's a huge thing. It is happening. So slowly, we're seeing insurance companies come back into the market. And I have a great brokerage that I use that I can help anybody out there that's listening that needs help with property insurance, but it is tough. And I would say, I don't know what California's rates are, but in Orlando, again, hurricanes aren't a big concern. You're not required to have hurricane insurance like you are on the coast. You're not required to have impact resistant windows like you are on the coast. I would say an average house, you're probably looking at around $2,000 a year to $2,500 a year in property insurance. Smaller house would be less.
I love it. I love it. What about programs? Like, are there any special programs out there to help consumers get into a home, like first-time home buyer programs, or any programs that people should be aware of?
Yeah, I mean, you have like what used to be called the Hometown Heroes program here in the state of Florida, which was so lenders could offer special reduced interest rates and closing cost assistance for people that were like frontline workers, like police, fire, nurses, teachers. There was a whole bunch, and some lobbies got involved and said, "Wait a minute, that's not fair." And so now they basically offered that same program to any first time homebuyer. So if you're a first time home buyer, you likely have access to that program, and you want to be speaking to a lender that can help you understand that. I have lender partners here that can make you understand, should you be doing a conventional loan using that program? Should you be doing an FHA loan, which is a federally backed loan where you can generally get either a lower interest rate or lower down payment or some
Yeah.
combination of both. Obviously, if you're a veteran, you can get a VA loan. Um, but special programs that are specific to Florida without consulting with my lender partner, that's the only thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, I love it. Cool. Anything else that you think would be helpful for somebody considering moving to Orlando?
Yeah, I think you just got to look at the writing on the wall. If you think prices are going to go down, they're not. That doesn't sound like a good selling point. But why are prices going to keep going up? Because people want to live here and the growth is going to keep happening. So the sooner you can make a decision to come and live here or buy your real estate, you're going to capture the equity. Jose, you probably get this all the time. Like, oh, it's never the right time to buy, and the price is too high. Dude, if those people had bought 6 months or a year ago, they'd have all this equity in their home. We have the largest airport in the state of Florida, much larger than Miami, literally landmass wise and visitation. We are the number one visited city in the United States, Orlando. Thank you, Mickey Mouse. Okay. We have a roughly recession proof industry in the sense of the theme parks, because even if we're in a depressed state or a recession type situation, unless there's a catastrophic global event, you're still having people flying in from Europe, South America. And, anybody listening out there, the last time you went to Disney, you probably heard 6, 7 different languages spoken, especially Portuguese. My wife's Brazilian. So I would, and with the Space Coast, right? The Space Coast is only growing with, Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk with billions of dollars invested. They're not going anywhere. NASA's not going anywhere. Boeing's not going anywhere. These are recession-proof companies generally. They're all associated with Orlando and Central Florida, the nation's largest university on most years here. So just lots of headquarters. We are in a great spot, and it's a great place to be. It's a culturally diverse area. That's another thing about Orlando. Orlando's extremely accepting. It's a very culturally diverse city. So no matter what your walk of life is, it's open, accepted. Oh, we're super close to the beach. You're only an hour drive to Cocoa Beach, where my grandparents live. Just an hour. I grew up in Kendall in Miami, where I got hit with the hurricane. If I wanted to go to South Beach, everyone's like, oh, you're in Miami, you're right by the beach. It would take me 45 minutes or an hour to get to the beach because of traffic. That's how long it takes me to get to the beach from Orlando, and I don't have to live in Miami. And you're only an hour and a half or 2 hours from the West Coast beaches, which are completely different. No wave action because of the Gulf of Mexico. It's not the Atlantic Ocean. And you have this sugar sand that's cold when you put your feet on it. And it's made of quartz. It's awesome. And barrier islands all on the West Coast with Sanibel Island got crushed by Ian, but so many more. We're centrally located. You can get to Jacksonville in 2 hours. You're in Tampa in an hour and a half. You're at Miami in 3 hours. And now we have the Bright Line train connecting to Miami. You don't even have to deal with traffic. Sit back, have a cocktail, work, bring your kids. Come back from Miami. I'm going down there for Dolphins games this year using a train. And in 5 or 6 years, that train will connect to Tampa. And maybe a decade's time, it's supposed to connect to Jacksonville as well.
I love it. I love it. And let's say somebody wanted to get in touch with you. What's the best way for them to do that?
Sure. The easiest way to get in contact with me is just to go to iamphilkruse.com, click on the connect with me button. I'm all over social media. Just search Phil Kruse. The key is it's Kruse with a K, Kruse. Make sure you get that right. And you'll find me anywhere. Just throw me in Google, put Orlando, put real estate. I'll be there.
I love it. I love it. Well, I want to say thank you, Phil, for taking the time to be on the show. In today's episode, we had Phil Kruse. We talked about what to know before moving or buying a home in Orlando, Florida. We talked about values, trends, neighborhood insurance, Disney, school district taxes, and weather. Thank you again. If you've enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you feel that this episode would be helpful, make sure to hit that share button. Thanks again, Phil, and to our viewers, until next time.